Pogacar has 14 World Tour wins at this before 1 June, Benji. That's more World Tour wins than he's ever had in a season, by the way.
That's pretty good, eh?
It's not bad. His season
and it's not going to stop here.
Yeah, is that a segue?
I think that's a segue.
Can Pogacar achieve, you call it the Triple Crown, Giro Tour Worlds? You're assuming he does Giro Tour Worlds and no Vuelta, I guess. Can he do Giro? Yeah. It would be Giro Tour, Olympics, Vuelta, Worlds.
Well, he doesn't need to do the Vuelta necessarily.
Well, he does.
That's what you think.
If you win the Tour.
The thing is, before the season started, Pogacar's aim for the season was Giro Tour, Olympics, Worlds. That was the plan they laid out. And now the discussion starts. First of all, question number 1. Can he do the Giro Tour de France double? Which it's really difficult to judge that based on the fact that half of his competitors for the victory there are barely on the bike yet.
No, that's not true. That's not true.
You know what I mean? They are recovering from an injury.
Remco, I don't think that in.
Yeah, but do you consider Remco a favorite for the Tour de France with Pogacar?
Of course, he's a competitor. You said a competitor.
He's a podium competitor.
He's a competitor.
I don't have him as like.
No, he's not the favorite, obviously, but he's a competitor. Roglic is a competitor. Vingegaard was obviously the injury kept him off the bike longer than Roglic and Remco. But like, I think Remco just did like 15 days in Sierra, no problems.
I only see Vingegaard able to beat Pogacar.
Well, that's my point. So Pogacar's never done two Grand Tours in a season before. So there is the question mark: how will he recover? We don't know. If doing the Giro before the Tour was the optimal preparation, then everyone would have been doing it before this year. That's just a fact. That's a fact.
Yeah, obviously.
If it was preferable to do it, then people would have done it. And the reason RCS has to pay people to come is because it isn't preferable.
Yeah.
But is Pogacar? He's a special rider, so that doesn't mean he'll be bad in July.
Breaking multiple bones in your body also isn't the perfect setup.
So Pogacar, absolutely, he can do the Giro Tour double. Absolutely can. And if Vingegaard's not there in good shape, then most likely he will. To be honest, because I agree with you. Like, success breeds success. The biggest risk I see is that some of the team issues you mentioned, Benji, the vulnerabilities, those things in the Tour de France have a way of getting needled out a bit more than in a Giro, particularly when you bring 1.5 rouleurs. But yeah, of course he can do the Giro Tour double, and I think he'd be the favorite for the Tour right now. He is the favorite, I think, in the betting.
I think he should be the favorite for the Tour right now because we don't know what level Vingegaard is going to show up at the Tour de France. I saw Willer Flitz report that the expectations are relatively high that he's going to be at good form at the Tour de France, which I still find that difficult to believe, which is mainly because the amount of time it's been since Vingegaard's accident. Basque Country isn't that long ago, and especially with the severity of the injuries, I have more of a hard time seeing him at 100%. And maybe he has like the peak watts there, but whether he can consistently do that for 3 weeks, there might be something there, a bit more weakness that could be exploited. And on the other hand, I also believe in the post San Milan era of Pogacar. I believe that it's physically possible that with a new trainer he can work on the vulnerabilities that he had in the past and maybe change those and tweak those and maybe be a little bit better on the high energy expenditure, large, long effort mountain stages that really get hammered by other teams where he has to push to the edge of a seat and by the end still be able to deliver. So I don't think this Giro proves that said weakness is gone because he was never put under that pressure.
I agree.
But it also doesn't prove that it's still there, which is also a thing. Riders evolve, which is part of the beauty of the sport that we're watching. And therefore, I can't tell you whether Pogacar still has that whether Visma can show up at the Tour de France and hammer that same strategy of smashing every climb in the mountain stages to hopefully have that pay off against Pogacar. If Vingegaard shows up with less base because he's had less time to recover from his injuries, that might actually be counterintuitive. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and we won't know until week 2 or 3 or week 3
Yeah.
because there's like, okay, there's stage 4 is the Galibier stage, but it's like 130 Ks long and it's like 4% climbing. That ain't going to be where you do anything. So we won't know. We won't know until weeks 2 and 3 because, yeah, they start with an Italian Classics opening weekend.
And if we then take a look at the team that's around them, you mentioned it already. You look at Wellens, Spolit as potential rulers, and then next to that, the rumored names are Soler, Sivakov, Adam Yates, Almeida, and Ayuso.
No Micah.
Yeah, and a lot of climbing. Like, I do think that Adam Yates proven that he can do that Micah role, if not
True, yeah,
better.
he's pretty good, yeah.
So Adam Yates is a pretty good rider.
Yeah.
Ayuso and Almeida are pretty good riders individually, but I can't trust Almeida to be where he needs to be to perform the work when he needs to every single time of the week. On La Redoute, he was supposed to do more than just show up and try and be in position and not being able to achieve that position.
Liège.
He was in Liège. He tried to position. He was supposed to position to help lead out Pogacar on La Redoute, but he wasn't there when it comes to his positioning, and Novak had to solve it. So that's one of the examples that I can't expect Almeida to be there every single time when necessary. And on the other hand, you've also got a question, are they going to go for the all-out Pogacar leadership, or are they going to consider, okay, he's ridden the Giro, we're going to have Ayuso as tiny backup leader in certain occasions? I don't think you're going to beat Vingegaard with Ayuso. But then again, maybe Ayuso made a step forward that we haven't seen yet so far. So
true.
Those are possible things.
He also got cooked hard by Carlos Rodriguez in Romandy 3 weeks ago.
Yeah. I agree with you that Spolit and Wellens, on paper, they're good rouleurs. Like, don't get me wrong.
Paul and Wellens are fucking good riders. They were like top 5 classics riders this year.
But the problem is, let's say Wout van Aert goes to the Tour de France or Matteo Jorgensen goes to the Tour de France as currently expected. If
Pollard ain't bringing back in a medium mountain stage, he ain't controlling Jorgensen jumping on 6-7%.
Exactly. So I'm looking at those situations and thinking, okay, can they solve those situations? And how quickly will the other mountain riders like Almeida, Ayuso, and so forth fold into that domestique role when necessary? I hope fast enough because...
Or Sivakov will be used as a semi-rouleur.
Yeah, I don't see that as a great option. I think
it's not great, but at least he's like 70 kilos or something and he can ride the flat, you know?
Yeah, that's true. But so that's one thing there. Giro Tour double, perfectly possible. He's the favorite to do it. Is my opinion.
Pogacar UAE at the Tour is a much more interesting prospect than this Giro.
Yeah.
This Giro, he brought their Tour team. He brought the Langen and Micah and Großschartner and Bjerg. He brought his Tour team of previous years. And so it's a new UAE team. It's an uncharted territory for Pogacar. And there should be better competition in the Tour. There definitely
and maybe in the team itself.
Exactly. And there's also the Ayuso wild card. What does he think his role is?
Yep.
So yeah, that is a much more enticing prospect for GC.
And then if we take a look at World Championships, for example, if I'm not wrong, it's a Zurich parcours, which is a bit of a circuit where it's got a climb in there. And if I take a look at the climb, 1.9 kilometers at 6.2%. On one end, Pogacar is one of the favorites of this parcours. But on the other hand, he's been outplayed by Remco. Either. He's been outplayed by Remco a few times on World Championships. So he has a team around him with Slovenia. Novak is probably going to be there. Tratnik's probably going to be there. I'm looking at those kind of riders and I'm like, okay, they will be supportive of him. Will Slovenia show up with both Pogacar and Roglic? I don't know if they love working together too much, but I still feel like while I would love to see Pogacar World Championships at some point in my lifetime, because I feel like at some point in his career he deserves to be world champion. But if I take a look at this parcours, it wouldn't shock me if a group goes away early that Pogacar is not a part of, that Remco is a part of, and he benefits like Wollongong again from that situation. So it's not super likely either, despite being co-favorite for that race. For Pogacar, I don't know. It's hard to say. Giro Tour is perfectly possible. Giro Tour Worlds is, of course, more difficult because there's 3 races. But I think it's possible. Who's the last rider that did the Triple Crown in cycling? I don't know. Because Triple Crown, to be clear, is Giro Tour World Championships, not Giro Tour Vuelta. And I think that dates back from the days where the Vuelta was earlier in the season, which made it hard or impossible to combine.
Stephen Roach in 87.
Yeah. And
that hasn't been done for like 40 years, 37 years.
Or on the women's side, Van Vleuten, but that's a slightly different story.
In 22. Yeah, of course, he probably will be the favorite for Worlds, although, I don't know. I agree with you that, like, that circuit, when I see that, and the Belgian team, they really have some good cards to play. Particularly with Remco, Evenepoel.